Oh my God.
Oh man. Oh man. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into a emergency edition of the DNVR Nuggets podcast. Took a while for us to get to the mics today because of field day and Adam's daughter hitting a game winner, which we'll get to in a second. I'm Harrison Wind. Adam, what's going on, man?
Man, I was having a great day. I was having an all-timer. And then I got whiplash from going from that. Yeah, my daughter, she had in the winter league, there's like winter, summer, fall session. In the winter session, undefeated season, go to the championship, double overtime, next basket wins, and she hit the game winner. Today, same exact thing happened. Exact same thing. Double overtime, sudden death of the championship game of the summer league, and she hit another game winner. It's unbelievable. Man. And so then I checked my phone, and Yoke's not signing an extension. So
this emergency pod is presented by Xfinity. Xfinity, imagine that. Should we start with the good news? Your daughter hitting the game winner. I think we might have video of it.
I don't know if we have it up yet. I'm looking in the files here. It doesn't look like it. Looks like we're getting it up here. Good thing on accident. Whoops. My bad.
That was definitely not it.
That was not it.
We'll get to that momentarily, I guess. But Marc Stein, our guy, came in with a big report today while we were all at field day. And you guys will see the content from field day eventually. It was a great time. Glad I didn't see the Stein report until later. But the biggest note, and there was a lot of Nuggets items to get to, but the biggest note is that Nikola Jokic might wait until next summer to sign his max contract extension with the Nuggets. Of course, he could sign it right now. He could agree to it right now and sign it this summer, a 4-year deal, a 3-year deal, really whatever he wants. But Marc Stein says he might wait until next summer to sign it. What's your instant reaction to that? What's the first thing that went through your head?
Well, the truth is that, we had kind of heard rumors of this a couple days back. And it's why if you watch our show on Friday, or Thursday rather, we started talking about the idea of him signing an extension or not. And of course, again, didn't know anything, but when rumors start speculating from, you start to wonder. So it comes out, and this is a layered topic. Yep. Because one, I don't think he's going to sign it this summer. I mean, that's my hunch from everything I've heard. I don't think he's going to sign it. It doesn't mean he'll leave Denver, but it does mean that Denver is now operating. In fact, my understanding and my belief is that he fully intends to be Nuggets forever and still, to this point, wants to stay in Denver. But there's a vulnerability that happens to an organization when a team is not locked, or when a player is not locked up. And specifically Nikola Jokic. And to me, it's all about that. I don't think this is signaling he wants out, but so many things can happen between now and 365 days from now when we're in this exact spot again. So many things can happen to change a player's perspective. And unfortunately, it looks like that's what we were headed for.
And that was my first reaction to it. I also think he'll probably be Nuggets forever. And, he probably will sign it, I guess, next summer now. But strap in for a whirlwind of a season.
The season is going to be rough.
Even if he's going to be Nuggets forever, the vultures are going to circle all season if he doesn't sign this thing. A player like him on an expiring deal doesn't happen that often. Typically, players in his position re-up with 1 year, 2 years left on their max deals. Every time the Nuggets lose, like 3 out of 5, if they lose a couple games in a row, every time they play the Lakers at the trade deadline, even if he's never leaving Denver, the vultures will circle, and we'll have to get the reports about the Nuggets don't intend to trade Nikola Jokic. The Nuggets have no interest in moving Nikola Jokic, and just having to put that out there sucks. So that's my first reaction, that we're just going to have to deal with this and talk about it for the next year.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple layers to this. So one is that he has 2 more years left on his deal this upcoming season, and then he has a player option. And the player option's for quite a bit of money, $62.8 million. It's a lot of money, but you know, if he goes into next season, he can basically sign an entirely new supermax contract. He can go up, and so it does add extra years to it. What it does though is it puts Denver in a situation where they're going to have a conversation with him that just says, hey, where are you at? Because most people sign this extension. So if we play out this year and you get a wandering eye and decide to leave, Denver could lose him for nothing. Nothing. Like, they could just have Jokic walk away and be in this horrible situation. Obviously, they're not going to trade Nikola Jokic unless behind the scenes they have the intel from him, I would guess directly, that he is going to leave. But it does mean that they are now vulnerable to him changing his opinion. So to me, that's what I think this is about. It's not about Jokic keeping options open, although that is going to be a byproduct of it. It may be a little bit about Jokic putting pressure on the organization, which is interesting, albeit in the most difficult way. But I do think what the real risk here is that over the next year, every team in the NBA is going to try to get in his ear, poison the well, and convince him that they have a better situation. And that is what Denver is now going to have to deal with for the next 365 days.
Yep. And that's the big difference. If he signed it this summer, you would not have to deal with that at all. You know, there would still be a little noise out here if the Nuggets have a bad season. Do they move off of Yoke? But this is different. You know, this is different now. You have every team around the league being like, yeah, he's probably not going to leave, but I mean, maybe we can get in his ear and, you know, convince his team that this is a more optimal position for him to put himself in. So it just leaves the door open for that. And that is just going to be a really uncomfortable thing to navigate for the Nuggets and just for everybody around the team. I do wonder about the putting pressure on Denver angle of this.
Yes.
Can this be a good thing?
Well, here's what's interesting about it. I believe the reason Tim Connelly is with Minnesota and not Denver is not because of side doors or equity or any of this. It is because Stan Kroenke hates being strong-armed. He hates being put in this position. This is my belief about it. And I think that the Kroenkes probably wanted him to stay and weren't really willing to negotiate in any capacity because they were like, screw you for trying to put leverage against us. Get out of here. Nobody leverages us. But Tim Connelly is not Jokic. Jokic is worth 1,000 Tim Connellys. Any superstar player is worth more than even a great GM. And so we seen this? You can go back to think about Stan Kroenke. You think about when Altitude was taken off of Comcast. Did they broker a deal? No, they lost money because they were like, I'm not going to be leveraged against. I don't care. I will take our team off during a championship run. I'll take them off of most people's televisions rather than give in and get strong-armed into a deal. But again, Jokic is bigger than Comcast in terms of importance to the Nuggets, bigger than Tim Connelly. And so now you have to wonder, how is Stan going to handle this? This idea that now his star player is putting him in a position where he has to now win him back over, convince him that they are willing to do whatever they can to win and that this is the place to spend his entire career.
Yeah. I mean, the Nuggets have been so lucky that they got a superstar like Nikola Jokic because most NBA superstars just would not have been down for this job description. Yes, we won a championship. They won a championship. Absolutely. You can never take that away. But I mean, if there was another superstar in Nikola Jokic's place, he might have forced his way out of town by now. So they've been so fortunate and honestly just lucky to have, a guy like him that doesn't want to meddle, that doesn't want to blow things up, that doesn't want to apply pressure because he doesn't feel like it's his job. And it's just going to be really interesting how the Nuggets respond, how the front office responds, especially in an offseason where they're kind of backed into a corner and don't have a ton of options that will definitely improve the team next season. And they are just in a position now for the next 12 months that they've never been in before. And they have to make positive moves when it might be a tougher situation than it ever has been to make those positive moves.
Yeah. Not only that, we have been saying all summer long, or really since they got eliminated, are there great moves to be had? I'm not even sure. The Cronkies might now say we're willing to do anything, but at this point, is there enough to do that would ensure, winning, making sure that your team is set up for next summer? In a weird way, next summer almost becomes more important than this summer, because this summer, you're in a tight spot, but next summer, Jokic can sit there and say, I'll sign it when I'm ready to sign it. You show me the team I'm going to be playing with. And I think that's actually how it's going to play out. So now I don't know if there's anything they can do in the next 7 days to win, to convince Jokic of that. It's going to be a year from now is how I believe. Anything's possible, but I believe it'll end up being a year from now. And now the team has to think about that. They have to spend this weekend before going into free agency. They have to start thinking about what it's going to look and feel like in next year's free agency when Jokic sits across from him and says, what do you got for me?
How much do you think how the team does next season affects this? Like, if based on, is it another first round exit? And
right.
What happens then?
I think so. I think you have to look at this. Jokic has said we weren't close to a championship. We weren't close. Right. So I think that the idea, it's not about first, second, third round. It's about, were we close? Is this team, we just saw the quote from Big Val about how hard he works and he puts everything into it. He's going to have to sit back and just say, are you guys putting everything into it that you want to put into it? And, I have been very even-handed with the Cronkies really for this whole run, because I truly believe there are some things they're great at, some things they're not great at. And it's just a mixed bag with them. But right now, they'll never have another Nikola Jokic. And so now there is, to me, and this is why I think how Stan responds to this is going to be interesting, because there is no winning this. The only way to win it is to have Jokic stay with you forever and then to compete for championships. And I am so curious to see how they handle this news. Does it make them change their approach for Tuesday? Does it? And then the other question, Harrison, I have is, does it change other teams' approach? If you're a team that is convinced you could get Jokic, like maybe you just have a chance, are you incentivized to do any deals with Denver right now that might help them to build a better roster? Denver's in a corner. Every team knows they're in a corner, and I'm very curious if other teams look around and say, you're in a corner. We're not helping you out because we want to steal your big guy a year from now.
We've talked about a lot how the Lakers have not really done anything since they've gotten Luka Doncic and kind of seem like they might be running it back again this summer. They have Luka Doncic. They'll be lurking all year long. And I don't think Nikola Jokic would ever go to the Lakers. I just don't. But they'll be lurking, and they'll try for it. They'll try.
The thing is, I don't think Jokic can be persuaded to go to the Lakers or to these other teams off of like a phone call. But what's going to happen now if he doesn't sign an extension is every greasy person behind the scenes is going to be trying to drive a wedge. That's what this is. Everyone is going to be trying to drive a wedge. Every organization now wants to destabilize the Nuggets in whatever minor ways they can and just get in his ear. Man, you know where you could go next summer? You can go here and look at who they have, and they have a team. And if you went there, you'd probably win. Every team is going to spend the next year trying to get a wedge into Jokic, between the Jokic and the Nuggets, on top of the fact that the Nuggets have backed themselves into a corner with the mismanagement of their assets over the last handful of years. So that's why this season is going to be so tough to stomach. Every loss, we're going to be talking about Jokic's extension.
Mm-hmm. And if you're a rival team who is setting your sights on courting Nikola Jokic, hey, why don't we just throw a crazy offer sheet out there that absolutely messes up Peyton Watson's contract in the Nuggets books?
Why not?
So they have to sign that. Oh, we were going to take Cam Johnson on as a salary dump? Why don't you give us like all your assets to do that now?
Yeah. Yesterday's price is not today's price. We feel like we can really tighten the screws on you now. 100%, man. I think that is the world they're walking into. And look, Denver, I thought at the NBA draft was going to get off one of their contracts. They didn't. And my read on that was maybe they just didn't want to. Maybe they want to do this, or they have another out for it that's coming in free agency is something they're going to do. Now I look at it and wonder, do teams just know this? Is this already part of the pressure teams are putting on? And we're like, that's a pretty good trade for us. But you know what? If we say no, you're screwed. So we're going to say no because now you're going to have to deal with this.
Absolutely. We are presented by Xfinity on this emergency podcast. Your team's starting lineup may change, but the price of your internet will not. Check out the 5-year price guarantee from Xfinity. You can lock in your internet for 5 years with Xfinity. They are the presenting sponsor of this emergency pod. You know, there was some other news that Stein dropped as well in his Substack. Go subscribe to that. You know, nobody has their finger on the pulse of the league like Mark does. He said yesterday that the Nuggets are willing to go up to $30 million per year to retain Peyton Watson, and that they still feel really confident about that. And then he dropped today that, you know, Cam Johnson seems like the likeliest or the guy the Nuggets want to move, so they can put that money into Peyton Watson's contract. Big Val probably gone. Mark also had that today, and I mean, I think we've been talking about that for the last couple of weeks. Any of those news items catch your attention?
The news item that caught my attention from that report was more about who Denver prioritizes to trade versus who they don't. I mean, that was part of it, right? This Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon, priority to stay. They'd rather not trade those guys. Cam Johnson, Christian Brown, they rather would.
And also Mark doubled down that Aaron Gordon has been maybe drawing the most interest out there still. I don't know how much interest that is, but the most out of those three.
At least we just know it's more than the other guys. Yeah. And again, like Cam Johnson to me surprises me because he's on an extension and he can help your team. It surprises me that more teams aren't after him, but hey, here we are. Christian Brown, come on. Like that one.
That just seems so unlikely to me. I can't even start thinking about what that deal would look like.
There's just, yeah, I mean, his contract begins now. You know, he was injured all of last year with that foot injury. You know, our teams really wanted to take on that risk on top of, is he even worth the money that he got to begin with? I said, if you recall this, man, last year when we were giving this new front office, Ben Wallace, all this praise, I always said, let's hold off because the extension is actually going to be more important than everything else. So yes, it's great that he got these vet minimum players. He was able to make the Dario Saric trade, which turned out to be it was a great deal. It was great, but that extension was going to be the thing. And that extension coming in at camp, after training camp, I should say, and it's the number one reason that we're all in this position that we're in. Yes, man, that's why I said last summer. I think we can now look back and say last summer was a failure, not a success, in part because of how it played off, but more importantly, because the Nuggets are in the spot now where Jokic is putting them against the wall.
Yeah. The other note from Stein is that the Nuggets have internally talked about pursuing Jaylen Brown. That's something they definitely should talk about. It definitely unlikely, but you never really know what Boston wants. Maybe they want Jamal Murray. So I guess it was good to hear that the Nuggets are thinking about that. Because at this point, you know, backed into the corner that they are, they've got to be just thinking of every potential move that's out there and just making every call that they could make.
Well, also, I mean, he is intriguing. I've been thinking a lot about a potential Jaylen Brown deal, and it's scary on all. It could really work, but I'm not so sure. It's not a player I would. It feels to me more like a compromise trade. I'd still go for it, but you know, who would you have to give up? I mean, at minimum, Aaron Gordon, right? And now you're talking about, because I don't think like Cam Johnson, Christian Brown, that's not getting it done. It's either Jamal Murray or Aaron Gordon. And if it was Aaron Gordon and say Cam Johnson, you know, that's how much you had to move. It's a lot, and you reset your salary structure, but now you're committed to new players with big contracts. So I do think Denver should be involved in it. To me, I just don't see any other way besides Jamal Murray being the player that is traded.
Yeah, I probably agree. And it's not like the Nuggets have first rounders they can offer. I don't even believe they have a tradable first right now.
They do not.
They do have the seconds. I don't think that really moves the needle in a Jaylen Brown trade, though.
Right.
It's more for lower level deals. So it's going to be interesting. All eyes are on Denver now.
Yeah.
If Jokic does not sign this, and I think we'll probably get confirmation about this the second free agency opens.
Well, he can sign on Friday. I believe it's Friday is the day. And like I said, what is it?
I believe the first, right? Well, I thought it was the 6th. I think he can agree and then formally sign.
Oh, I see.
I guess he could technically agree now because he's under contract. Yeah. But then, yes, you're right. Formally sign on the 6th.
All right. So that's actually a week from Sunday. Yeah, man. Look, this is just the new reality that the Nuggets are in. It went from bad to worse. And now you're in this situation that is clearly worse, where you have to now make a decision about, how do we keep this guy? How do we keep him happy? What does he want? And by the way, here's the other consideration to make. Jaylen Brown, I don't know if he and Jokic would get along, because he'd never played together, and Jaylen Brown seems to, I don't know if he's the easiest guy to get along with, or, to break in, to changes the identity, all this stuff. There could be friction, is what I should say. Aaron Gordon, Jokic loves Aaron Gordon. Peyton Watson, Jokic likes Peyton Watson. Even Christian Brown likes Christian Brown. Jamal Murray. If you're trading away guys and you bring somebody in who clashes with Jokic, that's also a disaster, because then you go into next season and you're like, okay, well, we traded for this guy that you absolutely don't like and don't mesh with, but will you sign an extension to keep doing that? So now Denver not only has to make their roster better, but they risk the personality dynamic in a way, like bothering him to a degree that pushes him out. It's tough, man.
Yeah. And it'll just be really interesting how the Nuggets respond. What does Jokic putting pressure in a way on the front office and on ownership to do things, what does that mean? Do they take a meaningfully different approach? Does it change anything about their plan this summer and into next season? We'll see. But I mean, the spotlight is definitely on the Nuggets for the next 12 months if he does not sign this, and we'll see. I mean,
how does Stan handle this though, Win? That's the question that I have is, the Nuggets have not been a first-class organization. Let's just be honest about that. They don't have the training facilities and spend the money on all these, like, the things that are frivolous but might actually help the margins. They hired a coaching staff that was very young. A lot of guys in their first, they're elevated to a space they'd never been in before. Is this part of the pressure? Like, is that part of what comes in a year from now? Is that part of the conversation? Because if I'm another team, that's exactly what I say. You're at that point, 32 years old. What are they doing for you for a training facility? What have they done? What have they given you? Because what we'll give you is, look at how we've invested in our team. We've invested in the success of our. Does your organization do that? And so I think the Cronkies right now, all of the things, all of the sins, I said they have strengths and weaknesses. All of their weaknesses now are going to become, they have to think about, are you willing to lose the best player your franchise will ever have because you wanted to save money in that corner? We'll see how much the Cronkies actually care about winning in a lot of ways. But in some ways, it might already be too late, and they just have to pray for the best by the time they get there. Yeah.
And the corner they're backed into, it might be too late to do like significant, meaningful moves that dramatically change the outlook for next season. They might not be able to do that, but you are right that they could change their tone in other areas that could be meaningful in this type of situation. Yeah. We'll certainly see. Thanks to everybody hanging out on this emergency edition of the show. We are presented by Xfinity, of course. Xfinity, imagine that. You got anything else before we wrap up here?
The only thing I'll say is that I will have Marc Stein on the All-NBA show tomorrow night, so you want to make sure you're subscribed to that, because I have been texting with him a little bit. He will be on tomorrow, and maybe we'll get a little bit more insight exactly how we should be approaching this, but I think we got it. I think we have the gist here.
That will be must-watch for sure. All right, thanks everybody for hanging out. Hey, throw us a thumbs up. We might be back on another emergency pod this week, and we'll see. If not, we'll talk to everybody on Monday. See you later.
We all silly like the mayor.